Okay, so you have an idea. It's a good idea. It might be the best idea you have ever had. You have a precious little amount of time to explain to your clients or to your team or to the people that are the decision makers. Let's say you're speaking to a board about this idea. And you want to know, am I going to be confident? Am I actually going to show up in a way that makes people want to take my direction and do the thing that I feel is the right thing to do? Well, if you struggle with confidence when you have to share an idea and a plan of action, this episode is for you. Let's do it.
Welcome to the Sam Linton Show, the podcast designed to help you shift your mindset, find your voice, and change your world. Sam is a pastor, coach, and expert communicator, helping leaders and entrepreneurs like you step into their purpose, speak with confidence, and make a lasting difference.
Okay. So, I don't know if you're like me, but my brain is an idea factory. It is. There's constantly things going around. I mean, there's a bunch of different spheres where my ideas manifest. I'm a writer. Right now I'm working on a project and I'm writing a book, and I constantly have ideas that are coming into my mind. You could do this. You could write about this. You could try this. You could make it like this. And I'm catapulted left and right with these ideas. I have ideas about the organizational structure of the church that I lead. And I'll have an idea about this. Maybe we should have a meeting about this. And these ideas it's like a constant, endless. It's like you have a light in your head and there's a moth that keeps hitting the lamp, makes that little annoying moth noise, the little flattering of the wings. That's the way a lot of us work when it comes to ideas. Now, the problem is not that we have a lot of ideas. If you're a leader, ideas are not very valuable because you'll find that it's all in the execution. And the first problem we run into is, how do we share our enthusiasm about these ideas when it's very difficult to be confident that they're going to be adopted? Like, how do I know if I get up in front of my board, the church's financial board, or if I get up in front of the executive team at the church, the staff, or if I am talking to a client about maybe a direction, a program that we're working on and something that might benefit their company, how do I know that those ideas are going to be even received well? Well, I don't. But what I can do is I can appear more confident than ever before with the way that I speak about sharing my ideas. And that's what I'm here to help you with today. You might not be confident in how they respond, but you are going to appear confident in how you present it. So this is a mindset that you have to recognize. The confidence has to come from the fact that you believe in your idea and not that it's going to be adopted. Unless you are an authoritarian leader that can just say, this is what's going to happen and that's it, without any kind of buy-in, you can't control if people buy into your vision. You can't. It's impossible. So on that score, you have to be willing to concede that I can't control this, and I can, however, become confident in the way that I appear when I'm speaking about the ideas. So the guarantee of the idea being adopted, definitely not a guarantee. The guarantee that you can appear confident when you're speaking about that idea, now we're cooking with gas. All right, so a couple things. I'm going to go through these, and this is kind of chip-chopped, so I just jotted these notes down, so if you're okay, I'm going to go at this from a bunch of different angles. The first thing you have to do is when you approach speaking about an idea, you have to first come with more than one idea. Now, when I say come with more than one idea, I mean that if you are speaking to a decision-making board, or you're speaking to somebody that's over you, or you are responding to your board who has hired you, you should make sure that you have more than one idea in your quiver full of ideas. Now, this might be counterintuitive because you might be like, Sam, what if they want the other idea? What if my idea isn't received so well? What if the other ideas are good? Well, that's going to be more on the how you thought through this idea discussion, which is beyond this, but you really should have more than one option because you want to know personally, you'll feel more confident by yourself knowing that you have beat up all of the possible ideas for a problem. Now, I'm going to get really kind of specific here. When I say idea, I'm not talking about an idea, let's start a business. I'm talking really about an idea of how to solve a problem, maybe how to expand a budget, maybe a client program that you're putting on. You want to give more than one option. One is too few and 4 is too many. That's why 3 is essentially the sweet spot when it comes to ideas, because you want them to be able to see that you've distilled that information down to some tangible, logical, possible action steps that will most benefit them. But when you come with more than one, now, so let's flip it away from, well, should I have more than one idea? Well, I think you should, because I think you should know that you've thought it through. But with regard to confidence in presenting that, you are going to come across more confident because they are going to believe that you have exhausted the ideas. So instead of just saying that you need to do X, Y, and Z, you're saying we need to come up with a solution for a blank problem. There's a bunch of things we could do. I narrowed it down to these 3. And so I'll give you because we're talking way too ethereal here. We're up in the clouds. I want to give it to you more in terms of a tangible way. So we, not too long ago, we're talking about the idea of hiring somebody at the church. And I was talking about it with the staff and specifically with the senior leader and specifically with some board members. And in my conversation with them, I would bring up 3 possible roles that needed filling quickly. Now, the role that I wanted to be filled, I had in there, but I also thought of 2 other roles. Now, you might ask, well, what if they would have decided, what if the board would have decided, what if the other leader would have decided that they wanted these other roles filled? Well, it's still a benefit because we still needed that staff person, but at the same time, I had thought through logically what makes the most sense for the church. I didn't just think of, ooh, my idea is great, even though I had a really strong idea that I thought would help the church a lot. And spoiler alert, I did get that role filled, and it is the one that I wanted, and it is going well, and that's awesome. But that's because I had thought through. I didn't selfishly go, I really want like, you don't want to come in with an idea like, we need a new staff person. That's as unconfident as you're ever going to appear. If you come in with I need, or I wish we could, I wish we should. No, you have to present the idea among other ideas in a way that shows that you really know what you're talking about. You really have thought through what it means to take action on this thing. So coming with more than one idea will enable you to come across way more confident. The second, another confidence thing, a second confidence approach to this is make sure that you are ready to explain the cost of not doing anything. So when I work with my clients on different packages that they can choose for their speaking, one of the things that I always throw in there is there's a cost associated with your indecision. Now, you might think this is a sales technique, and maybe it kind of is, but it works in tandem with trying to make a decision because people don't often like change that requires them to do things differently or requires them to think differently. So in order for people to make a change, they have to be either A, motivated by so much of what the end result is. Like, if you have to make some changes in your diet. You can be so motivated by, like I am, wearing a Speedo at the beach over Christmas, which that's probably not going to happen this year. I guess we'll have it next year. Maybe that's something that I'll work on. But you're motivated with that end goal, that fitting into that goal suit, or you're worried about your financial picture and you one day want to have a 7-figure financial retirement plan, right? That's the goal. And a lot of times that motivates people to change. But more often than not, in the short term, people are motivated by something that they fear. And if you speak to people about an idea, you have to let them know of what would happen if they don't take action on the idea. What would happen if they just maintain the status quo, if they don't do anything, if they just have another year like they had here. And people are tend to be motivated by what costs them, what wastes time, and also like how things appear in terms of you kind of look bad. This is looking bad for your company. Your company's producing in a lower standard. So your explanation of what it will cost to do nothing will often push them over the edge to make a decision. But this also shows, from a speaking perspective and from a confidence side, that you have thought through their perspective. You've thought through what they have going on, what motivates them, not just what you need. And when you give them that idea and tell them that if we don't do something, you're going to be here, well, you're showing them that you care about that, you don't want them there. So explaining the cost of taking no action is helpful. This is not fear-mongering. This is framing risk. Like, hey, we could go. And I just spoke at a tech conference last week, and when I was speaking there, one of the people after came up to me, one of the people that were in the session came up to me, and they said about this very subject, about how do you get people to take it seriously. And I said, well, we have to be careful of fear-mongering. You don't want to make everything be Chicken Little, the sky is falling. But you can say, look, if we don't take this measure, maybe nothing will happen. There's a likelihood nothing will happen. But in the event that it happens, it's going to be cataclysmic, or it's going to be irreversible. And if you can communicate that when you are in the tech field, if you're a technological leader, you're able to get buy-in from people that have to pay for it, or people that have to work under whatever system, an idea that you're bringing to the table. So that is another thing. So make sure that you explain to them the cost of not doing anything, because there certainly will be one, without fear-mongering, without catastrophizing, but simply let them know that this is a risk that we should not be willing to take at this venture. All right. Next, moving down the line, you need to use verifiable, objective evidence. If you are data-driven, this is going to be your favorite part. Unfortunately, you might struggle with the other ones, but this is where you're going to bring the data that backs up the idea that you are bringing forth. And you might be sitting here saying, I don't have any data that backs this up, I just want it. Well, then we need to go back and revisit those 3 ideas. Because if you are working with people that are spending money, if you're working with a team whose entire work day consists of implementing your idea, or if you are working for someone and you are asking them to take a very large risk, you have to bring data to the table that's not just your feelings. I'm all about intuition. I'm all about following your gut at times, but you have to come to the table with a measured level of, this is what I've done. This is the research that I've done. This is what the data says. And in terms of what the data says, it is best that we, and then you put your idea there. But you have to have the data. The problem with a lot of this is most of our data is opinion. So that's why you want it to be verifiable and objective. Meaning, if you're, and here's a good way to look at objective. And this is going to be a hand grenade of a illustration in 2025, but we'll try to go with it and see what happens. So let's say you and your staunchest opponent in the workforce are staring at this same level of data, the same same measurement unit of data. They're looking at the same thing. It should be pretty clear that you're both able to see that things aren't going well, or that things are going well, or that this is a problem. It shouldn't be open to opinion. So an example might be, if you're inside, because cybersecurity is what I was thinking of, if you can take certain outages and things that affected a lot of people, like the Amazon Web Services going down and CloudStrike and all of that, if you can take those things and say objectively, look, this is what happened to our system as a result of blank. This is what happened with our workforce. This is what happened with our revenue generation. And you show them in a list order how all of those things were impacted. You now are letting the data do the heavy lifting for your convincing. Let me say it again. You want your data to do the heavy lifting for your convincing. You don't want to rely on charisma, though you should have charisma. You don't want to rely on sounding confident, though you ought to sound confident. You want to let the data do the heavy lifting when it comes to, oh, we really should take action on this. So verifiable, objective evidence means that you could put it in a report and somebody that didn't know about your situation could read the report and go, yeah, I could see why Sam wanted to do this. This is a big deal. But you want to have that data ready, because you don't want to be caught off guard if you suggest something and then there's nothing for you to say why it should happen. That's happened to me more than once. I'll be talking to someone and I make an idle, I just did this with somebody. I'll make an idle suggestion or an idle plan that, remember I said my brain is like an idea factory. I'll talk about something as if I want it, and I don't have my feet on solid ground enough when it comes to evidence and when it comes to data in order to get them on my side. So it just sounds like, again, like I'm blue skying, like, oh man, it would be really nice if I had a Lamborghini. Oh boy, that would be nice. And it turns into me just wanting something without really having measured out why it matters to the organization. You don't want to do that. So you want to use verifiable, objective data, evidence in some way that people can see that you are very, very serious about this. So the enemy of evidence is vagueness. Yeah, it would be nice if we had a new operations pastor. Oh man, it would be nice if we had a new AV system for this one building that we manage. That would be nice. Well, that's really vague. Well, why is it nice? Like, who cares? I mean, there's a lot of, I would love to get the 3500 Apple VR glasses, but it's nice, but I don't have any data as to why I need to buy that for myself, right? There's no data for that. So you want to make sure that you're not being vague and that you're being objective about what your idea is going to do, and make it easy to prove. And the best way to do that is through external sources, other people's reports, other people's examples, different things. So keep that in mind. So use verifiable data. Data is your friend, and make sure you use it to tell a story, which leads me to my next one, is make sure that you tell stories. Now you might say, wait a minute, you just said data, what about stories? Well, let me explain. Storytelling is the name of my business. Storytelling is something that everyone should develop. Storytelling is a way that when you're presenting an idea, you can take the attention off of your desire for the idea's implementation and shift it into a story about why this idea needs to come to pass. The story then has to be someone other than you. So a trap for this with people that are good storytellers is they tend to have stories that center around themselves. But if you are speaking to a group of people about an idea that you want to implement, and one of your evidence points is a story that you've experienced, it's very lopsided when it comes to the me factor. So I'll give you an example. One of the ways that you can get a budget increase in an area is if you talk about where something went sideways for a client, or where something went sideways with regard to a work project. I did this years ago when I was trying to get somebody that I worked with to upgrade the tech on some of our equipment we were using. We were using outdated technology. I'm not a big technology. I like technology. I'm not one of those people that's cutting edge, knows everything, but I use it so frequently. And I knew that just an update in technology would be life-changing for this program. So I didn't say, well, it'd be really nice if when I'm operating this program that I didn't have to do this and this and this, and it fails. What I said was, well, last week we had somebody in the program that we were using the equipment and the equipment failed, and it was a client that most likely now will not return because they had a bad experience with the equipment. Well, that was enough because now we're into revenue. Now we're into the client who had the bad experience. Now we're into, it's not about me at all. It's about the client. It's about the client that we might need to re-up because we don't know what we're doing with the wonky technology. So the story wasn't about me, in a sense it was because I was there, but the story was about the client and their relationship with the business. And again, you want the data to do the heavy lifting for the convincing. And for the stories, you want other people to do the heavy lifting if they can. If you can find stories of that. It's safer. It's more persuasive. And again, it gives you the opportunity to paint a picture that shows that you've thought this through, not just about something that you want to do, but something that you ought to do based on the experiences of other people. This is a huge, huge opportunity when it comes to showing people evidence. All right, so we've covered a lot. Let me see if there's any more that I thought here. Nope, that's it. Okay, I got all of them. So let's go through it real quick again. You want to have confidence when you approach these things. So you come with more than one idea. Make sure that you talk about the cost of inaction. Make sure that you use some sort of verifiable objective data, evidence, whatever. And you tell stories that have nothing to do with you, that highlight what it is that merits this idea needing to take place. So those are my thoughts. I am a coach. I would love to coach you. You know that. I am a mindset coach with regard to speaking, and especially for executives. If this is you, I would love to close out the year with signing you on to be one of my clients. I love working with people in their roles and helping them become better as a result of the way they speak in their roles. So you could email me at podcast@samuellinton.com, and I would love to work with you or your team. I love doing team activities as well. I do speaking. I speak in large groups. I speak at keynote events. I've done all of those things. Would love to add you on my calendar. But until next time, thank you for tuning into the Sam Linton Show. Thank you for being willing to give us your time. And also, make sure that you shift your mindset, find your voice, and change your world. We'll see you soon.